As previously mentioned, whether you decide to use the standalone version or the plugin version is a matter of personal preference. And while the majority of features are the same between the two versions, there are some features that are unique to each, and we'll cover them here. Starting with a standalone version, the first feature worth mentioning is the matching time grid feature. After loading an audio file, it's important to check and make sure that Melodyne has correctly placed the audio at the 1 bar on the time ruler. Sometimes when you import a file, if there is a bit of space at the beginning of the file, Melodyne will incorrectly interpret this as a rest, when in reality it is just a momentary pause before the audio starts. To realign the 1 bar with the imported audio, simply drag the 1 in the time ruler to the start of the audio. This will reposition bar 1 to sync with the imported audio. Once you have repositioned the 1 bar, it's important to double check the tempo of the audio file, as Melodyne can sometimes incorrectly double the tempo. While this will have no effect on the actual audio file, it can be confusing when viewing the editor window. Entering a new value in the tempo box would be of no help here, because it would cause the audio material to be stretched or compressed. Fortunately, the fix for this problem is easy. To fix the displayed tempo problem, click the button next to the tempo window, and the tempo window will open. In the drop-down window that appears, select 1/2 to correct this problem. Now the grid properly displays the right tempo. If you need to specify a fixed tempo, you can also do it from this window. Setting a fixed tempo could be useful in situations where you have an instrument that fluctuates a bit in tempo and you wish to iron out any tempo issues by quantizing the part. Normally, Melodyne places the 1 bar at the beginning of the first note it detects in the audio file. In most cases, that makes musical sense, but it doesn't always work for every situation. For example, let's say you're editing a track from a project that you intend to later reintegrate back into your DAW project. Although the track was recorded from the start of the song, no notes sound until later. If Melodyne were to try to align the 1 bar with the first note played instead of with the start of the file, when you later tried to reinsert the track back into the original project, you would discover that the synchronicity had been lost. To avoid this problem, check the Set Bar 1 to Start a File checkbox in the tempo window. Melodyne will now align the ruler's bar 1 with the first sample word in the audio file, and the track, when reinserted back into the original project, will be perfectly in sync. You can also right-click on the 1 bar in the time ruler to access this feature as well. Over in the plugin, if Melodyne detects a tempo change in your host DAW software, the chain icon will flash orange. Double-click the chain icon to open the tempo settings window. If you have simply changed the overall tempo and there are no tempo changes within the song itself, select Constant Tempo. This tells Melodyne that the new tempo registered applies to the entire song and that it should adjust its own ruler bar accordingly. If you want Melodyne to stretch or compress the audio material to reflect the new tempo, check the Stretch Audio checkbox, and Melodyne will stretch or compress the audio as necessary. If the tempo change in the host applies to only part of the song, check Tempo Variation. Tempo variation is a little bit more complicated than a constant tempo setting, as the host DAW has no method of automatically transferring this information to Melodyne. In order for this information to be processed, Melodyne must learn the new tempo settings. While the tempo dialog window is open, stop the playback in the host and move its playback cursor to a position prior to the variation in tempo. Now, for the benefit of Melodyne, play through the entire passage containing the tempo change or changes until a point is reached beyond which no further variations in tempo occur. Stop the playback in your host application. In the tempo window, you will see indicated the range of tempo variation within the passage covered. Click OK to accept the new tempo variation setting.